Hi, folks. Okay, I was just watching a program, a very interesting program, about what happened in. I can't tell you where it was. When the hurricane hit and the area flooded in America, where all the poor people were living. And there was a hospital in the middle who went through the whole blinking lot. I think it's 5 days in memorial, I think it's called. 5 days at memorial, it's called, yeah. Brilliant. Very good program. And yeah, at the end, it centers on one of the doctors with a few nurses. In the last days that they were there, of that 5 days, the last day basically, they've been told everyone who can leave has to leave by 5 o'clock. We have boats here, and because we have boats that can take you, you have to leave. Everyone, no one can stay here who can leave. The problem is they had a separate sort of hospital on the 7th floor with basically patients who were having their last days, pretty much. Who were pretty much there. Chances are they're going to die. And so, yeah, there was one man who was very large indeed. And there was no way, shape, or form they could get him out. No way, shape, or form. You know, carrying him down 7 flights of stairs and then through a small hole that they've got to go through and then carry him up the steps so they can get him in the helicopter. Yeah. Just never going to happen. And so I think what happened was, I do believe what happened is that this doctor, Dr. Poe, and 2 nurses decided to help these patients who were going to be left alone to die in a hospital alone with no doctors, no nurses, no nothing. No power, no electricity, no nothing. Just left alone to die. Because what they're being told was no one was in charge. Because, Bush and his lot were way behind the curve with regards to acting. And, yeah, the governor had skipped town. The mayor and whoever had gone when the hurricane started, so therefore they weren't around. And it was just the people there left to deal with it. And the idea, because the whole area was still very flooded, there was still 6 feet or so, I think about 6 feet or whatever, of water flooding the whole area. So obviously, they're not going to be able to get to these patients. No one's going to go back, basically. This was the effort to get people out of this hospital this day up until 5 o'clock. After that, as far as they're concerned, it could be weeks before anyone went back. So this doctor with the nurses, they helped these patients to die quicker by giving them medication to end their lives. That's where the tricky bit is. Because in the latter bit, they're trying to make a case against this doctor and the nurses. But again, as I'm watching it, I'm getting quite annoyed, thinking, well, look, the reality is, by the look of it, that's what happened. Now, the doctor's oath is to do no harm. What's more harmful? to leave these patients there to die alone. With no one there, no one to say goodbye, no one to hold their hand. To know that they've been left to die. Or to give them medication and to help them to die. In the program, they killed all the dogs and cats. They gave them injections. Well, that were in the hospital, because people that were fleeing and hiding in the hospital for safety brought their animals, and they believed that when people were evacuated, the animals wouldn't be. So they killed all the cats and dogs. And the man who did it, you could see him absolutely broken by that fact, that he had to end the lives of these animals. But again, doing so was mercy. The condition in the hospital, there was no food, there was no water, there was no air conditioning. There had already been people dying of heat stroke in the hospital. It was that bad. Yeah, the conditions were absolutely horrendous. And yeah, I've done videos talking about the fact you can't really judge unless you can understand. Now, I'm at the last episode of this thing. The doctor has just been arrested. So it'd be interesting to see, but yeah. The problem is, society can see this in two ways. You can see it as manslaughter, or you can see it as mercy. If you understand it, that these patients would have been left to die alone, then it's mercy. If you understand it purely that doctor and nurses were giving these patients a cocktail designed to end their lives, then in a straightforward manner, that's murder, isn't it? That's manslaughter. So, yeah. But again, as I say, you've got to put yourself in that situation of where they were, of their understanding at the time. And this is where courts don't do that. Courts don't even try to understand before they judge. They just judge. And this is why, again, this is why people in courts, the judges, the solicitors, the clerks, whatever, the prosecutor, all of these people, they're going to go to hell. They're not going to go to hell simply because they judge, but the way they judge is not righteous. The way they judge is based purely on what the law says. Because they judge purely on what the law says, they're going to be judged based upon what does God's law say, and they will have no more mercy or grace than they give others. That's what I say. If you are in the law, you should be trying to change it so that there is mercy and grace in there, and there is understanding of, why the person made that decision. Because, again, some people will create a story, a narrative, to try and get away with something nasty. Yes, that is true. Yeah. But again, you test the story. You don't just accept it. You do test it. You do. But as I say, yeah. You can't really judge someone unless you've actually can see things from their point of view. If you can't do it, then you shouldn't be judging. I'm not saying the person shouldn't be judged, but you shouldn't be judging if you can't see. So it needs someone who can see to be the person who can judge. So there you go. I wish you well. You take care. God bless. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.